Okay, so last time in Narada Bhakti Sutra, we were on Sutras 13 and 14. And what we saw was the fall of Shastra, right? When we don't protect Shastra, then there's a fall of Shastra. Or rather, when we're away from it, there's a certain fall that we experience. And so in Narada Bhakti Sutra, it tells us to stay close to the Shastras for how long? As long as we have responsibilities, as long as we have roles, and as long as we realize this truth. But even those people who have realized the truth, still they take recourse in Shastra. Rather, they become the living manifestation of Shastra. And for them, everything will go on as it needs to because of the prarabdha karma of the body and the mind. So now today we're going to enter a little bit of a different section. Naraji is now going to talk about the different definitions of bhakti according to the different acharyas. So we are on Sutra 15. Tallakshanani vachyante nanamata bhedat. So what does he say here? Tat lakshanani. Lakshanani means the characteristics of what? Tat means bhakti. The characteristics of bhakti, vachyante, are being described in words. Nanamata bhedat. Bhedat. Due to the difference, mata, opinions, nana, the very different opinions on it. So let's look at the Sanatana Dharma context for a moment. Sometimes when it comes to Sanatana Dharma, we get a little bit overwhelmed and we think that there are too many differences. And sometimes you just want a simple path. Just tell us 4 or 5 things and that's enough, right? And so we look for that simplicity, but actually the diversity shows how sophisticated Sanatana Dharma is. For example, let's say somebody has to buy toothpaste, right? Now, what if there's only one toothpaste to buy? What would happen? We all have different sets of teeth. Some people will need something like Sensodyne because their teeth are very sensitive. A child might need something that tastes like bubble gum because they're not used to the taste of toothpaste. Somebody who's very much into Ayurveda might want Himalaya herbals or Vico. They might want an herbal toothpaste. And somebody who just wants regular toothpaste will pick up a Colgate. But the point is that because there's a diversity in these toothpastes, then everyone is able to get the one that's useful for their teeth, right? And in the same way, when you go to like a chipotle, there's rice, there's sofritos, there's beans, there's all kinds of things. And the way that the body needs to eat, that's the way you take the food, right? So somebody I haven't been to Chipotle for a long time. So if I don't say it correctly, forgive me. Somebody might take like a bowl, right? Somebody might take like a burrito, depending on whatever they want, because that's how their body needs to eat. So Sanatana Dharma is like Chipotle. It gives you everything. All the kinds of beans, the kinds of rice, tortillas, you name it, it's there. But depending on how we need to absorb it, that's what our gurus do. Our teachers, they say, you know what, for your mind type, for your body type, you need a burrito. And they'll roll up the burrito and they'll give it to us like that. They'll say, you know what, you need a bowl. And they'll make a bowl for us and they'll say, this is what you need, and you take it like that. So the plurality of the multitude of paths, of people, of propagators, of teachers, of gurus is our strength because it shows the sophistication of our culture. And so Naraji also says here, there's many, many ways that people can look at bhakti, and there's many ways that people can look at jnana. And what are the reasons that this would happen, right? So number one, I have mentioned to you that we are all made of different kinds of equipments, and we have different tastes, different temperaments. So there are different teachings given to us. The second point is different masters, they would have taken a certain sadhana up that meant something really deep to them, or something that they truly practiced primarily. For example, some of our bhakti or bhaktas, they would have practiced just singing the name of Bhagavan. And so if you come to them, they'll say, just take the name of God and everything will be okay. Some of them would have practiced intense puja and ritualistic worship. And so they will say, you have to do puja, because this is what their practice was. So the depending on what they practiced in their lives, that's what they're going to show, because that's the way they've realized this truth. That's the way they've realized this oneness, and that's their direct experience. Another reason is that the needs of the times are different. So not only we're different, but the needs of the times are different. So in the time of Adi Shankaracharya ji, there were many different philosophical schools coming up. So he had to speak in that way that would sort of clarify the Advaitic philosophy when put against the other schools of philosophy. So he had to speak a certain way. He had to construct his commentaries a certain way. But now if you try to do that today, those schools of philosophy are still there, but is not as prominent. So then the way to reach the message to the masses will be slightly different, right? So because we have different equipments, temperaments, because the masters also had their sadhana, their specific sadhana, which they were rooted in, because the needs of the times were different, that's why there are these different methods. But the beauty of it is that they all converge into one. And you know, in Mandukya Upanishad, it says that Advaita doesn't have any issues with anybody, because Advaita Vedanta truly believes that you have one rose. And some people might say to you, look at how the petals, look at the colors of the petals, they're so beautiful. Some people might say, smell the fragrance of this rose, isn't it divine? Some people might say, watch the thorns. Before you pluck the rose, watch the thorns. But they're all trying to tell us that it's a rose. In whatever way they've understood, they're all trying to tell us, come to the rose. And so that is what our great masters are trying to do. And the beauty about great masters is that they want us to surpass them. So if we walk, they tell us to walk further, because they understand that maybe sometimes they can only see this much, or they can only go this far, but they themselves will push us ahead. And this comes out in this interview that Gurudev had with Pritish Nandi. I'm just going to share with you now two of the questions that were asked to him, and just see how Gurudev answers. It's really, really beautiful. So, and this interviewer is also so direct. So he says here, the question is the interviewer. He says, what about the current Hindu pantheon of gurus and godmen who run their private industries, not just in this land, but also overseas? What do you, as a scholar of Hinduism and one of the most distinguished teachers, think of this strange, esoteric bunch of faith peddlers? I'm referring to some of the well-known names. I know I am clubbing completely different kinds of people together, but what I'm trying to ask you is whether you think Hinduism deserves such a vast variety of masters who often suggest completely different routes to salvation. In fact, the routes are quite often contradictory. And Gurudev replies, have you watched the followers? They're all voluntary, free. No one forces them. They follow these masters because they find some consolation. So at different levels, all of them are valid. I know that there are too many teachers, too many masters, too many gurus in this country, but I would wish there were more. So just see Gurudev's answer, he says, I wish there were more. Because instead of those minds being so extroverted and going out and doing so many other kinds of things that would be possible, their mind is geared to evolution. And so he says, I know there are so many, but I wish there would be more. And then here's another quote by Gurudev. So the interviewer asks, sure, as long as they are teachers, not quack healers or exploiters of the innocent. And Gurudev says, don't think that all teachers will teach only at the BSc level, or that the MSc level teacher can teach everybody. There are students who must be taught only alphabets, only addition and subtraction. Isn't this true? In education, there are various levels and various teachers. If the MSc teacher is given an elementary class to teach, he will become confused, go screaming mad. The elementary teacher cannot similarly take MSc classes. So at different levels, different teachers are valid. They don't know beyond their levels, just as their students cannot understand beyond the levels at which they speak. So this is Nana Mata Bhedat. This is all these different paths, but yet they converge into one. And that sattvic vision is the one that helps us to keep paying attention to the unity in diversity and see how beautifully each master has brought this truth out. So now, let us see the various facets of how the rishis said, or the rishis felt about bhakti. So first we will see Vedavyasa. Vedavyasa Rishi, Sutra 16. Pujadishu, Pujadishu, Anuragaha, Anuragaha, iti, Parasharyaha, Parasharyaha. So, Vedavyasji is called Parasharya here because he is Parashara Rishi's son. So he is Parasharya. Now, what does he say? Pujadishu, in the worship of the Lord, in all entangled engagements that encourage the unbroken flow of thoughts towards the Lord. So here, Pujadishu. Pujadishu means that worship with our body, speech, and mind. Now, why is there this need of puja? Just think, why is there this need of puja, and why did Vedavyasji say puja is bhakti? We are so identified with our bodies. So much so that whenever we see a mirror, we cannot help but fix something. We're so identified with caring for our bodies. How much time, how many hours of the day we're focused on what to wear, what to eat, how to exercise, what time to sleep. So many times we just think about our body, pampering our body. How will my body feel good? And so he said, now this is something that every seeker must go beyond, this body identification. So how do we do it? Okay, we go to a temple, but that's not enough. In the temple, the deity is dressed so beautifully that in the temple also we have this tendency to look at what people are wearing, who's there and who came, who didn't come. We still have the tendency to look at everybody. So what our temples do is they dress the deity so beautifully that we only look at that deity. Make the incense, the deepa, the dupa, the smell of the incense pervade the air so that we go there. Chant the sound of the mantras so that we're able to sit and listen to it. So they do everything. Our temples actually do everything to help us go beyond this body identification. And by this puja, they're telling us, stop looking at yourself. Look at Bhagavan. Look at Bhagavan. Because Bhagavan or Bhagavati is that true beauty in everybody. And so when we have that grand deity, then the next thing we do is that worship. And what is that worship? It starts with saying, you are in me. Now let me worship you as this deity in front of me. And like a guest, we build that relationship with Bhagavan or Bhagavati. We offer Bhagavan a seat, wash the feet, hands, give something to drink, bathe the deity, put clothes, accessories. We offer flowers, we chant the names, we entertain also, and we do arati. So we do all of these things and saying that you have come from within me. Let me now worship you. Let my whole focus just be on you so that I can rise above this body. And then after the puja, now we tell the deity, now you come back and you reside in me. So during that whole time of puja, I am lost. I am not in my body. I am lost in the body of that deity. And that's the meaning of puja. I immerse myself in that so much that I am lost in it. And you can see when some people do puja, they really get lost in it. Some people, they'll also, we've seen in some of our saints and sages' life, instead of putting flowers on the deity, they'll put on themselves because they completely got lost now. They don't know who's who, completely identified with that deity, right? So for Veda Vyasji, this was a very important way of connecting, of showing devotion. Now, Garga Rishi, he feels something else. He says, no, for me, this is what bhakti is. And probably because this was his sadhana. So Sutra 17. Kathadishu iti, Kathadishu iti, Gargaha, Gargaha. So Garga Rishi. Who is this Garga Rishi? So the first one was Parasharya Veda Vyasji. This is Garga Rishi. Garga Rishi, he was the one who did the naming ceremony for Sri Krishna and Balarama. And he has also written Garga Samhita, which are the stories of Bhagavan Krishna. So for this Garga Rishi, he said Kathadishu, Katha, stories, etc. That is bhakti. Because he feels that devotion when he hears divine stories of the Lord. Adi means the name of Bhagavan, the singing of Bhagavan, the chanting of stotrams, the chanting of hymns, all of that is part of this Kathadishu. In in Sanatana Dharma, what was our tradition? There was no, like the entertainment back in the day was katha. So how people would socialize, they didn't have like parties and all these things like we have now. They would all get together and they would engage in the stories of the divine, of Ramayana, of Mahabharata, of Bhagavatam. And this is the way they pass their time. Rather, they didn't pass their time, they made the most of their time. And so every evening, the people in the village would sit together and they would tell these stories to each other, one after the other. And this is how the community grew up, through this tradition of katha. And till today, we have this tradition of kathakaras. These the people who tell the stories of Bhagavad and Puranas with such devotion. And when they tell the stories also, they have such beautiful commentary. So today I'll just give you a taste of it. There is, during the lockdown, what happened during the lockdown? There was this group that formed. What did they do? This is a WhatsApp group. And the WhatsApp group, their mananam, the reflection was on Sri Krishna. So they would ask, why did Sri Krishna steal butter? Why did Sri Krishna close his eyes after drinking milk from Putana? So here, today, I'm going to just share with you, why did Sri Krishna wear a peacock feather? So they would take this and then they will see how different commentators interpret that. This is part of the story or the katha. So I'll share some of that with you. One is the peacock feather symbolizes Maya, Maya because it is so colorful. It has so many varied colors. It's so colorful, so it's Maya, and he wears it on his head, showing that he's Bhagavan, the controller of Maya. So Maya can be this variety, names and forms, etc., can be extremely colorful, but he is in control. And the way he's in control of it also, it's as light as a peacock feather for him. Sometimes for us, the world of names and forms can get so overwhelming and we feel so burdened by it. But Sri Krishna wears it like it's a peacock feather, so light. So he's not burdened and bogged down by this world. Another facet of Sri Krishna's, this peacock feather. So they said that one time Sri Krishna was playing hide and seek with the gopas, with the cowherd boys, playing hide and seek. And he was so upset. He's so upset because they always caught him. They would always find him. And so he cried to his friend and said, why is it that you always find me? How come I'm not able to hide? And so they told him, they said, Sri Krishna, your complexion is like a dark rain cloud. And because of that, it draws the peacocks. And so when they see you, the peacocks come near you and start dancing. And that's how we're always able to find you, because we see the dancing peacocks. Then one other one was in the time of Sri Rama and Sita Devi. One day, Sita Devi was very thirsty. She was very thirsty. So Sri Rama said, okay, I will go and I will get you some water. So now he didn't know where to go. He didn't know where there could be a lake. So he saw a peacock. He saw the peacock there now. How would they talk? So the peacock understood that Sri Rama was looking for water. So the peacock started dropping one feather, so that Sri Rama would know where to follow the peacock. Started dropping feather by feather because peacocks walk fast. And so Sri Rama would follow the peacock feathers until finally he got to the lake. What happened when he got to the lake? He saw pristine water there that he could take to Sita Devi to drink. But when he looked at the peacock was so frail that it was almost dying because it had given all of its feathers to Sri Rama. And so Sri Rama cried and said, I will always remember your sacrifice for me and Sita Devi. And therefore, I will wear this peacock feather on my next avatar. So that's why Sri Krishna has a peacock feather. So this is that katha. This is this katha, these enlightening stories which keep us so centered on that divine. And sometimes it brings so much more love, so much more respect, and so much more peace in our lives. We all would have remembered when one inspiring story, any inspiring story, shook us up so deeply that it even changed our lives. So katha dishu. Now we will see one more. This is Shandilya Rishi, right? Okay, there's one comment here. The recent Kantara movie, a Kannada movie, the person who performs the puja Varaha avatar is possessed by the deity during the puja. It's a local tradition of Karnataka called Bhuta Kola. Can you please explain what happens in the possession of the pujari by the deity? Wow, okay. Varaha avatar or Mataji in North India. So this, I don't know too much about it. I'll say a few things of what I know. One is, it is belief. Yeah, it is a belief that when somebody does perform puja, somebody really worships that deity, that deity comes through them. This is true. How I know is because this happened to Padmapada and Adi Shankaracharya ji. So we all know the story of Adi Shankaracharya ji. Once the Kapalikas said that we want your head because we want to do a sacrifice, so we want your head. So he told them, I will give you my head, that you come at a time when my devotees are not there, so then you can take it. And so the devotees were sleeping and the Kapalika came to take Adi Shankaracharya ji. But Padmapada was very, very disturbed. He was very, very disturbed. And for some reason, and he woke up and he saw Adi Shankaracharya was not there. So he ran to the forest and he kind of demonstrated this Narasimha bhava, this bhava of Narasimha, the avatar of a man lion, because that was his Ishta Devata. That's who he worshipped. So that bhava came to him and he was able to defeat that Kapalika and save Adi Shankaracharya ji. So it is true that in some of the regions, to those who are very pure-hearted, that Bhagavan can manifest with a certain bhava. But it is also true that there are fake bhavas. There are people who also sometimes fake it. So we have to just be very, very careful. And when this happens, just be apart or be aside. I'll share with you one story when we went to Yamunotri. We went to Yamunotri. This is a temple of Yamuna Devi. All the way to the top of Yamuna Devi. And we went there. And now in the morning time, there was puja. And I was so happy because we'd stay the night there and we came for the puja. Now everybody was so noisy. And I was like, should I just ask them to keep quiet? And you just want to be with that moment. But I was like, no, don't ask anything. And I'm so glad I didn't, because one of the ladies there, she just went a little bit wild. She kept moving and she screamed and she yelled, and it was as though she was taken over. But it wasn't that kind like how Padmapadacharya was. It wasn't that kind. It was just a little bit like something's going on. So we all just backed off until she kind of calmed down. So that's why I'm saying, so to some it does happen, but to some it doesn't happen. Yeah. Okay. Let's stop on this note. Atmarati we will take next week, but for now you keep in mind these the differences in how the differences in our path are actually something that are a blessing, and how different rishis saw what bhakti meant. So let's pause here.